Sports podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and tonight, Joel. How are you, mate?
Hey Matt, all good, thanks mate. How are you?
Great, thank you. And James, how are you?
Yeah, all okay. Relegated back into third position.
And Femi,
I'm good, thank
how are
you.
you?
Best for last, you know what I mean? How are you, mate?
We say save the best for last, but I did put the message out in the group that last one onto the pod tonight is on probation because we needed to start on time because we're all tired because we all caught the Masters. So you had 1 week off probation and now you're back on it. So on performance review.
He's not talking to me.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. And really good to hear that you caught your first golf tournament this weekend. And what a one it was to catch. James, do you want to give us the rundown from the weekend? I guess we can start where we finished last week we were speaking about the par 3 contest was going on when we last recorded. And then we head into day one of the Masters, and it kicks off with McIlroy and Justin Rose, pretty much.
Yeah, day one was sort of starting with what we really missed from some of these competitions, which was a leaderboard stacked with people. Rose went out on day one and shot 65 and 7 under par after one round, and everyone's going, oh, this is going to be a really low-scoring tournament again. But yeah, I think what was the best thing about day one was the fact that you looked at that leaderboard, Rose, Scheffler, Aberg, Hatton, DeChambeau, there was just names everywhere. And it was up to be stacked, and it was a great, indication of what we're going to get for the next 3 days.
What we thought from day one was probably Rory's not out of it, but he's probably not in it. Shooting an even par round, although he was 4 under after 14 holes.
Yeah, Rory 4 under after 14 holes. On the 15th, he's 200 yards out into a par 5, and he walks off with a double, with another double up, 17 or 18 to finish level par. And you could hear everyone went, oh, here we go again. Rory McIlroy's going to bomb himself out after day one. I think that was really the story of the weekend. Rory, flying ahead and then pegging himself back. People weren't pegging him back. He was doing it to himself.
Yeah, the weekend was his, based on actual golfing performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if you break down the stats, Tee to Green, for the first 3 days, it was really, really solid. There's I think the stat after Friday, he came out and said, I've played 34 out of these 36 holes absolutely perfectly. And 2 of them, just had huge wobbles on. But yeah, going to the weekend, he left himself in contention, which is not something he always did or has done in the past. So yeah, he was probably very happy with his Thursday and Friday overall. When I went into the press on Friday afternoon and they were giving it, what does this say about McIlroy? And he was a bit, nonchalant about it. I know I can do this. I know I'm resilient. It's just everyone else that has a lot to say about me.
It was interesting that he didn't talk to the press though on Thursday night for the first time.
Yep.
Ever in his career, I think, other than I don't think he was as chatty after the US Open last year.
Yeah, he left after the US Open final round, but he's been very supportive of Morikawa recently doing the same thing. And I think we'll get onto it later, but Lowry had similar comments like these guys are coming straight off the course and they're doing interviews. And it's a very charged competition. Everyone's very emotional after these rounds, and people are going to get themselves in trouble if they go straight and do media duty afterwards.
Which we F1 fairly regularly. You see some pretty immature and emotional comments. You see it on the radio because you get the live broadcast of what they're actually saying mid-competition. So, I mean, excluding that, you get a few remarks on the golf course that get picked up on the mic, but usually it's pretty tempered.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, you're gone.
I was just going to say, I do think it's it's a bit different with golf as well because it's just them. If you're a football manager, you can come out and say a bunch of things about other people, about the refs or whatever. If you're a golfer, it is really just okay, how would you deeply analyse your own performance today, right now, whilst you're upset? Yeah. It's I could say anything.
It's also the timing of it. You consider a football team, they tend to go and have a team talk afterwards, a bit of a cool down, and then they'll go do media duty. They've calmed down. These guys are rolling straight off the 18th hole when they're being put in front of a microphone. So you can understand some of the comments that are being made or not made.
So he put himself into a little bit of a bubble, and Bryson said something interesting that I saw in an interview. They asked him when he'd come off. He said, how's Rory feeling? What's he saying? And he said, didn't say a word to me all day. Not one single word.
After the final round, was that?
Yeah.
Really? He did say he was nervous, though, didn't he? Rory said himself in the interviews afterwards how nervous he was.
Yeah, his caddy said something interesting. I think Rory said it. His caddy said as they were getting the buggy back to the start of the 18th, he said, "Well, we'd have taken this. We'd have taken this on Monday morning."
Yeah, it was just like resetting him, that's the biggest job of the caddy. He's probably made 10,
Yeah.
20% of the earnings this week, and he's had to pick his player up after a bit of a devastating moment. I think that's where Harry, his caddy, gets a lot of flack for not being a traditional caddy and being very pally with Rory growing up. But that's what he needed. He needed his mate to go, "Come on, mate, like this is okay. We're in a playoff of a major here," to just sort of turn his head back.
Especially if you know Rory as well and you know his history in the tournament. It's like whatever's happened doesn't really matter now. We're in a playoff to win, so let's just go and do that.
Yeah.
Do you ever get players go from caddies to golf players?
No, but they do it the other way around. Most caddies are really serious players. Like they're just probably not good enough to go. They are unbelievable players in their own right. So caddies are used for like yardages, shot club selection, reading green. So they know the game inside out. They're not just like, "Oh, I'm here for a chat." They are like supremely talented at what they do. The argument about McIlroy has always been that if he'd had quite an older caddy who's been there, done it, seen it, he might be.
Which he did have. He had JP Fitzgerald until 2017.
He's had that, but he went to, I can't remember Harry's surname, but he's basically like a long-term friend.
Diamond?
Maybe Diamond, yeah. And he thinks that he'd rather be out there with someone that he trusts, like he can keep him calm on a friend level. But, that's taking a lot away from, he's a great caddy as well. It's just the argument has always been whenever Rory blows up, "Oh, he hasn't got a proper caddy," which is just nonsense.
I mean, it's like, would he have done the Grand Slam sooner with JP on the bag? Now, like retrospectively, it's impossible to tell, but he's now done it, and he has done it with Harry. So
yeah, it doesn't matter. I think if you look at that round 4 specifically, like the amount of ups and downs he had in one singular round of golf is what most people go through over a weekend. So doubling the first, bringing himself right back into joint lead after one hole was like a nightmare start, and then he birdied 3 and 4, and it's like, "Oh, I'm bouncing back." Doubles the par 5, goes back and makes a birdie up 17. Like he's just always bounced back, and I think a lot of that comes down to him being kept. Like, "Rory, you're fine. Just go."
Yeah. With Bryson blowing up alongside him, it can be easy to. Well, I've seen it in like previous tournaments that if one of them goes, they both like start to struggle, and especially if like Bryson's trunching away to himself or whatever, like it can be distracting, can't it? So you think that probably might also be why he didn't really engage with him that much, because it's like. I can't be involved with somebody who's in that headspace. I need to be in my headspace where I need to be so that I can play the game that I need to play.
Yeah, definitely.
But actually, James, didn't you say you'd heard Rory encouraging Bryson?
Huh?
I thought you said on the WhatsApp it still encouraged Bryson, like something had happened, but he still goes.
No, that's getting cut. I actually think slightly different.
No, Joel said he's giving Bryson encouragement, but I think you were talking specifically about he's coming back to him.
How loose he was off the tee. It was like that was around hole 4 or 5, I think.
Yeah, doesn't he?
Rory was scoring, but he was so loose off the tee, and it was just like if you were like Bryson was still banging it at that point. I think he was still on 10 under at that point, maybe 9 under, and yet it just felt like he was showing weakness. Like he was showing that he could be got at. Maybe I mean the way that it transpired, it wasn't even Bryson who was competing with him.
Yeah, I think the interesting one between Rory, you might say about not wanting to see your competitor playing that badly. I think he probably enjoyed it a little bit. I do think like that US Open will still have stung. I think playing with Bryson could have been a worst case scenario for him because they're both ding dong. They want to hit it. They want to hit past each other. And if Rory got outside of his own bubble and started going, "Right, I'm going to hit past Bryson. I'm going to do that," he'd have probably fallen apart. And I was scared that it was a Bryson and Rory final grouping.
I was feeling like there was a bit of influence on that because he was wild off the tee, but he was just finding every single bunker. I mean, he wasn't finding as many bunkers as Oberg.
Yeah.
Who found the same bunker, and then he went bunker to bunker straight afterwards.
The weird thing was about the bunkers, the first 2 holes, I think they calculated it something like a foot. He missed the 2 bunkers by a foot, and it cost him 2 shots over the 2 holes. So it could have easily gone the other way, and he just started fine and settled in. But yeah, it's just fine margins, isn't it? I do think the interesting thing about Bryson, he is perceived as playing quite well this weekend because he was second, but because I watched all weekend, he was scrapping around. Like, wasn't fairways and greens and making putts. Like his scrambling was unbelievable. And I said to you guys, like he was over-indexing on how he should have scored to how he was playing, and it just sort of unravelled a little bit on the final day.
Can't do that for 4 rounds, can you?
You can't do on the Sunday at the Masters. You have to be 100% behind your game. The way some of those pins were set up were like diabolical as well, and it just sort of, those gaps that were there on the first 3 days really came to the forefront on Sunday.
I think it's why these 4-day tournaments are so important, really. Like they properly test you. They're like a genuine test of your ability to put rounds together, and you might be able to scramble through 1 or 2, but you're never scrambling through 4.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about the 4 rounds, and it's the same point they make about the Grand Slam. Like, to achieve the Grand Slam, he's the 6th golfer ever to do this. It's the 4, because the majors are quite different. You have to pretty much master golf. So the Open in the UK, super windy, linksy, a really different test to the PGA, which is, a bit more of a glorified PGA Tour event, and the US Open, which is, again, difficult, rough, long greens, long fairways. And then the Masters has its own test. Like, they're 4 very different golf tournaments, which is why a lot of people don't win all of them. And it's just a culmination of, 20 odd years of McIlroy doing this that he was able to put them away.
And, some amazing players don't win one. Like that's a factor as well. And I think obviously Rory's resilience has been spoken about a lot in the last 24 hours. And I think there is so much focus on his mentality mostly because of 2010, isn't it? Because of what happened in that round.
Last year, yeah.
And last year was but it had built up before that, I think. Last year it felt like history repeating itself a little bit or whatever. But when you think about some of the other players on this tour, and like the one that I think of is Jordan Spieth, who really set on fire, really was winning lots of majors, and hasn't gone back from that yet. He's still young, still a great golfer, whatever. It could happen for him. He doesn't have that kind of narrative around him the way that Rory does. It's a bit different, but Rory's a bit of a sweetheart for media or whatever. But it's been so long since that happened, and the narrative have built up so much. So to do it, I think, is incredible. Like the amount of resilience that takes is just astonishing, really.
Yeah, it's 10 years of him turning up at this competition and he was going, no, he's got no chance, he's not a major. Like you said, it's an individual sport. It's hard not to take that personally. People say, I am a golfer that they think they can never achieve again. And I think it was Paul McGinley was running through it after he'd won yesterday. He was talking about the mentality of golf and how you need resilience to bounce back. And I think the difference between good golfers and great golfers is the mental game. Like, you can have great golfers with good golf swings, and you could have good golfers with great golf swing, but they don't have the mentality to match it, so they never get as good as they should do. I think fundamentals only take you so far. Like, it really is a sport that's between the ears.
And that's why Scheffler has been so dominant over the last couple of years, is because he's got the highest percentage of bounce back ability. So bouncing back from bogeys is Scheffler's forte. If he ever gets a bogey, then he bounces back immediately. 70% of the time bounce back.
But he was a bit of a hothead when he first came through. It was when he first joined up with Ted Scott, who's his current caddy. Ted Scott didn't want to join him because he said, you are too much of a hothead. You need to calm down. And that's something that they worked on. You can see how
and they're mates. They're mates, aren't they?
They weren't really working together before, but now they're super close. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I didn't know if it was like a don't want to wreck the friendship kind of deal. Yeah. So some of the players that are probably close to all-time greats, but they won't be because they've not won majors. I mean, it's going back a little bit, but Colin Montgomery, mental that he's never won a major. Steve Stricker, the greatest putter of all time, has never had the rest of the game to win a major. Luke Donald, who was number 1 and had a flawless year, except for winning a major. 5 he got tied 3rd was his best. Ricky Fowler as well, there or thereabouts. So interesting with Jordan Spieth, you said about him, he is kind of next cab off the rank alongside Scheffler to be going for the Grand Slam. Spieth has just got the US PGA to go. So every year that's there for him as well. And that is starting to rack up in the years. And he's kind of the next one that's got the potential to get it, him and Scheffler.
I slightly disagree with the Spieth point. I think the reason Rory's always had this narrative is because he wins quite a lot. He just doesn't win majors, and the people know he can win golf tournaments. Whereas Spieth he's won recently. He's been in and around a hunt, but he is so erratic that he's never putting 4 rounds together, 18 holes a day, and not making huge mistakes. I think that's the point of Jordan Spieth is a good technical golfer, and during that run, his mental game was flawless. Like he wasn't worrying about his swing, he wasn't worrying about anything. He was just going out and playing golf. And I can't remember which pro said it, but he was like quite envious of Luke Clanton, who's like the amateur coming through at the moment. He's the best amateur in the world. He's got his PJ Tour card already. And the guy was saying, "Oh, this is great, but you have to look how he swings the club after his first crisis. Like your professional game doesn't start until you have
So,
by your swing." Which Spieth only had after he's won 3 majors.
yeah, Scotty's temper seems to be coming back a little bit, actually. Seen it this year, smashing his bag to pieces.
Yeah, looks a
A
bit
la,
yesterday as
a
well.
la James. He's probably got a dented
Yeah.
golf bag too. So you're in good company, James.
Yeah, all the talented players do it.
I feel like
But
golf
yeah, I think
players
I
is
just
very
want
similar to tennis players in
yeah,
terms of the temperament. Just like, and I think it's probably back to your point, Joe, about how it's just them.
Mm.
And their mindset going into it, and it's such a grueling round. You're probably going like 3-4 hours, playing the same game, and sometimes it's you're losing certain sets, you're losing different holes.
Big momentum shifts, isn't
Yeah,
it?
big momentum shift. So it's
I think that change of state is so key as well. Like on the Sunday in the run in, like I was kind of obviously I wanted Rory to win, and I'm kind of feeling just Rose into the clubhouse really. I don't want him on the golf course anymore. I want him to get his score, go away, because then Rory's not worrying about that anymore. What's he doing on the a couple of holes in front of me? Is he getting a birdie again? What's that raw? Then he can just kind of he knows he's on 11 under or whatever he goes into the clubhouse on, and he can focus on hitting that number.
yeah, that was the big thing.
Well, he spoke about it with Bryson from the US Open last year, didn't he? That he was hearing the cheers and he was having to wait for him to take shots. And Rory's not good at waiting anyway, but he's having to wait for the guy that is chasing him to play his shots before he can play his. And there's something about that, about the person being on the course and hearing the cheers, hearing the oohs, and knowing that they're hearing yours as well. It's better that it's just you and your game and you're the last man out.
Yeah, I also think that's just sort of Rory's game, though. He's never been great at being hunted. He's always been the guy that chases down a score. And I think it happened twice yesterday. One was on 17, 16, when, Rose had posted his score. I think he'd made birdie up 18 and he knew that 11 was the number. And being, it was probably at 15, when he realised he was dropping shots and he had to make that eagle, he makes a birdie. The shot into 15. Those haven't seen is the second shot into 15 is probably the best golf shot I've ever seen. For the moment it is for the context behind the shot, being blocked out and hitting it to 4 feet for eagle. I've never seen a shot better than that watching golf. I know there's going to be arguments about it, but he's come up when he knew he needed a shot and he was chasing someone down. His mentality switches from I've got to play safe to I've got to put this near the hole.
Well, is it McGinley? Is it Paul McGinley? Is that his name, the analyst?
Yeah.
He was talking about his aggression getting him out of trouble a lot of the time, wasn't it? And it was, I think Rory realised that from 15th onwards, maybe 14th onwards, I've just got to be aggressive because there were a couple of tentative moments. And I think he realised whether that was like advice from the caddy or Rory taking that on himself. I think he just started being aggressive again.
The minute he stopped was the second shot into 18 and he blocked a wedge into a bunker. And it's like, what are you doing?
Well, yeah, I think it was a little bit before that. It was on the 10th. He'd just gone 4 shots ahead on the 10th hole, and then going to the 11th, he went into his shell. He went into just getting round bogey free, and what that actually did was his score just went tumbling down.
I
But
think
you said about
the holes they were playing, I think 10, 11, 12, people do start to play a bit more conservatively around aim and corner. I saw the same thing, like he was definitely a bit more wobbly off the tee and, going through those 3 stretch of holes, he was defensive. But I think that's an area of the golf course rather than, there'll be some context behind it. It's the back 9 of the Masters and the 10th hole was where it all blew up for him 10 years ago. He was going onto that going a bit like, oh, I'm going to have to hit. I think he hit 5 wood off that tee. Like, he wasn't going
to 4 or 5 clear at that point as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But yeah, you saw, when he had to go like shot into 17, you could hear him like crying his ball forward, like I have to hit this all over the pin. And then interestingly, the playoff hole, like he had the exact same shot that he had the hole before, and he went, "I'm going to have to make birdie because Rose put it close," and he does.
Well, that was the aggression you spoke about. Paul McGinley spoke about is having that mental edge that Rosie put it to 10 feet and Rory put it inside him. He had to do a pin seeker, and
Yeah.
he did.
It was probably the best thing for him that Rosie put it near the green.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And Justin Rose, who's had a phenomenal career and is still having a phenomenal career, and he's played himself back into the Ryder Cup, and he'll be Ryder Cup now.
He was just so solid over the first 2 days was great. Third day, not so much. And then he started pretty poorly on Sunday. Rose is just one of these competitors that if he gets in, he thinks he's got a chance. He just puts his head down and graphs out a score. I think on the back nine, he might have made 2 pars and he made 10 birdies across Sunday, which is just unheard of
That's
at the Masters. So yeah, I think that's his light, his fire has been relit ahead of the Ryder Cup. There was talk that, is he going to get too old? He's 45 now, but this is some of the best golf I've seen him play, so it's great.
He's got to make a future Ryder Cup captain, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. Yeah, the leaderboard actually is very interesting. Is very interesting in terms of the Ryder Cup. You got McIlroy, Rose, and Oberg on there, and then you've obviously got Reed maybe in contention, probably not, but you've still got Scheffler, DeChambeau, Schauffele, and yeah, it's going to be a very, very good Ryder Cup later on this year. I'm glad that we've got the Ryder Cup. Last year it kind of fell away after the majors. We didn't really have a lot of golf coverage, but the Ryder Cup I feel like is going to be the pinnacle this year now.
Gonna have to get Sammy.
I love it so much.
Have to explain all the different formats of golf and the point system. We're gonna have a great time, Femi.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like the head-to-heads that you're gonna get. It's gonna be McIlroy versus Scheffler or McIlroy versus DeChambeau. It's just gonna be phenomenal. Or Oberg versus DeChambeau. Like you've got some great potential lineups.
Did you see? Oberg 3 putted the last or something. Made an 8 up the last. $500,000 that hole.
Is that how much it was?
Yeah, $500,000 for that hole. Yeah, bit of a mistake, but he's going to win a major pretty quick. Like obviously, I said I tipped him this time, but I think one of them this year, if not definitely next year, he'll be winning a major. He's too good not to.
I think PGA for him would be a likely one. He can dominate a course. He nearly dominated this course. Like you said, if he could putt, and this is an incredibly difficult course to putt on, but there's going to be a PGA that suits him.
Yeah, I'd also say, just to round off the Masters chat, I think now that Rory's got this monkey off his back and he's got the Grand Slam done and he's won a major again, I think there's every chance he wins like 4 or 5 more. He's just always there and thereabout when he's playing like this.
Yeah, I think he's got great potential now to do the double Grand Slam. I don't think there's any reason why he can't now go on and do the double Grand Slam. The form that he's on and the age that he is.
He's only 5.
He's getting better with age for sure. He's got another 5 or 7 years playing in this. If he can keep this, he still feels like he's adding shots to his game. So it could be a very exciting rest of the 2020s for Rory McIlroy. No easy way to segue off such an incredible sporting performance. It feels like everything else is a little bit meh in comparison. But impeccable performance all the same was Oscar Piastri at the Bahrain Grand Prix this weekend, who was at times fastest in practice and qualified on pole and won the race as well. Did he get fastest lap too, James?
I think so.
I mean, you don't get a point for it anymore, so it doesn't really matter, but he was just perfect all weekend. As we've said, perfect Piastri. When he has a weekend like this and doesn't make any mistakes, he can't be beaten. Because, like Lando, made mistakes in qualifying, made mistakes in the race, and didn't have it. Other people just don't have the car to beat him. And now the leaderboard, the standings for the Drivers' Championships, very close. I think just 2 points between Norris, who's leading, and Piastri in second.
Yeah, Piastri's still suffering from the Australian mishap, but it's very much the Piastri versus Norris comparison is very much like the Maverick versus like the methodical approach. Norris can be quicker on his day than Piastri, but the way that we've seen him drive is so calculated. It's so, I won't say steady because he's still ridiculously fast, but like he's a bit more risk adverse to Norris, and so he just looks so difficult to beat because he's not going to drop the mistakes that Norris. Yeah, that he's a bit more like Verstappen in that sense. You don't expect mistakes from him.
Are you saying that Lando is Goose? Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't using Maverick.
No, Lando's Maverick and Oscar is
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly it. Yeah, Piastri is Iceman. Like he's far more calculated and like technically sound, whereas Norris on his day can just be quicker, but still the second best pilot.
Which Kimi Räikkönen likes to think that he's the Iceman, but he's not because he's incredibly emotional and aggressive and could run anyone off the track. But that's not Piastri. Piastri's so within himself, and he's very young too. To be so composed and methodical, he's very wise beyond his years, which is why many of the other team principals in the grid would pick Piastri as their preference for a number one driver.
Yeah, there
But
was
Zach Brown is not.
yeah, there was so much like drama when he sort of defected from Alpine to take this McLaren seat. Everyone's like, "Oh, this kid's never driven in F1. What's going on?" But they knew the talent that was there, and they knew the temperament behind him. Yeah, I think he's honestly. I know it's like super reactionary to say like Piastri would be my favorite, but we've said it for a few weeks now that I think he's to win world championships. You can't have really off days. You've got to be there and thereabouts all the time. And Piastri's shown that so far, apart from one corner in Australia when it was raining. So yeah, I'd be picking Piastri as the championship favorite for me.
And they're going to have to make that decision before long. If Verstappen has another race weekend like he did last weekend in China, then they are going to have to make that decision. But at the minute, obviously, Lando is ahead on points. So he's on 47 points, Oscar's on 44, Oscar's won 2, and Lando's won 1, and Max has won 1. And George Russell is just mopping up the other podium positions and the rest of the points.
Yeah, I think if you look at that Red Bull this week, they're in serious trouble. I think the clause that's being touted around is if Verstappen falls out the top three, he has a clause that will let him leave the team to go somewhere else without a buyout. That's the rumor anyway. So, and he's already sort of hinted that he's not happy, wasn't happy during the Horner situation.
How hard does he race with that clause in place?
It seems like a stupid clause to ever put in.
Mm.
But he wasn't happy at the Horner situation, and he's not happy again now that Lawson got demoted when he didn't want him to. So if there's a spot for him, I could see him going, but he will not race with Russell. They don't really get on. But Mercedes would have to replace Russell with that.
And also, it'd have to be George to go, and it would be Max and Kimi Antonelli, which I can see. Then more likely, I can see Max going to where the most money is going to be invested, which is going to be Aston Martin, with reunited. Don't shake your head yet. Reunited with the car genius.
I just think
Who's the car genius? You need to tell us who that is.
Adrian Newey.
Adrian Newey.
He went from
Responsible for the most driver and constructor championships over the last how many? 17 driver and constructor championships over the last 23 years.
Sounds about right. Yeah, but I just think it's a huge. I just don't think Verstappen needs to be. I think if he's not going to get a car that he thinks will win, he'll just leave. Like he'll just retire. I don't think he loves it that much to go and be a midfield driver for a year if they haven't got the regs quite right, which is like a really hard thing to do. Like obviously Red Bull did so well this time, but they hadn't won a constructors in 6 years. Like it is really difficult to do.
Oh my
The
God.
winning team's going to move heaven and earth to get him, right?
Well, you'd say that, but Mercedes won every year for 6 years, and they can't get anywhere near a Red Bull. What they hadn't been able to until this year, and they're a winning team with money.
What's my guy Lewis doing? Or should I say Sir Lewis?
Better this week, but yeah, I don't think that Ferrari's quite as good as it should be. And I'd also say it's taking him time to sort of acclimatise to the car. Like he had one really good sprint in China where he won, but his qualifying pace is lacking a little bit. And I think he finished 10 seconds behind Leclerc, even with the safety car this week.
Is it him or is it the car?
Really bit, but I would always have defended the car until this season. But now I'm starting to think it's a little bit of both. Like I would say he definitely isn't as sharp as he was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
I don't think he's. It's not that he's as sharp. I don't think he is.
Raw pace.
Yeah, he doesn't have the raw pace, but the raw pace comes from, maybe sharp, like maybe his speed on the brakes, his cornering, that he's not putting himself through it as much. But yeah, so he was 8 seconds back. Just a correction on Adrian Newey, it's 13 constructors, which is incredible.
I think just on the Hamilton,
Yeah.
so he doesn't have it and he'll be rubbish. I just think he has to figure the car out. They probably have to bring some upgrades. Like this McLaren is so fast that everyone else is.
I mean, give him till the summer break for sure, because him and Leclerc also, you hear them on the radio as well all the time, getting frustrated with the engineers or with their engineering comms, that they want to know where they're losing time and they're just not getting the right information through from the team. they're having to ask the questions and not being served up for them. So they want more out of the team. And I think Charles and Lewis are going to get the most out of that Ferrari team, but they're just so prone to mistakes.
Yeah, time will tell. There's still 19 rounds left. Like there's still plenty of racing to do.
Yeah, but like we said, next year the regulations change and people are going to be focusing on that car. This year, how much time and money do they spend investing on closing the gap to McLaren when next year it's all reset?
Yeah, agreed.
How's Yuki getting on then? Replaced Liam Lawson. Is he doing better than Perez and Lawson, in your view?
He had the highest second driver Red Bull finish in something like 173 days, which isn't
Wow,
saying a
and
lot.
that was ninth.
Yeah, and that's not saying a lot for Perez's finish to last season or Lawson's start. But yeah, I think it's different for Tsunoda than Perez because he's coming into maybe the fourth best car. But yeah, he looks okay. It's not that he's doing badly. I think it's the fact that Verstappen is driving the arse off the car, and
Technical term.
yeah, that is the technical term. That's the one they teach.
Yeah.
I also think that this car, I was talking to someone about it. I think Albon might have done an interview on this. They were saying that the car is so to Verstappen's liking. It's
Yes.
like he likes his car so responsive that imagine you like play a video game and you put your sensitivity up to 100 and you touch it and it moves so much. That's what like this Formula One car is to other drivers. So they come in, they're like, oh my God, this car is so difficult to drive. And you lose a tiny bit of confidence and you lose so much time because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so it's so heavily primed with front end that means that it is so prone to oversteer.
Yeah.
And that's where these other drivers are struggling with it. They're going to be much more tentative. And you've seen it with Yuki. So his fastest lap was over a second behind Max's in the race, which just isn't competitive.
The race has its own sort of set of context going on. I think in qualifying he wasn't too far off, so he won't be too unhappy. But I think Tsunoda's meant to like a relatively pointy car too, so I think he can get up to speed, and he's probably the right driver for now. But they're already asking Hadjar if he would want to go to Red Bull, and he's like, ready if they ask me. So you never know with Red Bull.
Yeah, in qualifying, Max was 9/10 faster, so pretty similar. Anything else from the world of F1? Oh, so actually, interestingly, Piastri's tied down. They've locked him in his contract. He's still got over a year to go, but they've actually secured him till 2028. I'm seeing rumours of. So not as long as the deal that Lando was given, his 7 or 8 year deal a couple of years ago, but they've still locked in both of their drivers long term. So the McLaren drivers are not going anywhere, and I think the McLaren drivers are probably happy with that too, given the pace of the car.
Yeah, best car, best driver pairing. It's sort of a no-brainer for them.
Where next in F1?
It's a great question. I think there was a double header, wasn't it? So there'll be a break now.
No, we've got triple header. We are off to Saudi Arabia. It is Jeddah this weekend coming.
Jeddah's a great one as well. It's a tight circuit. It's you're going to see some safety cars and some crashes.
Yeah, credit to F1 for having races next door to each other in countries next door to each other. So we're not flying across to South America to come back to the Middle East. We've actually got back-to-backs in the Middle East for the first time in a while.
Although then we go to Miami and then we come back to Europe. So
Yeah.
slightly less strong planning.
Yeah, I think it was the same last year, wasn't it? We had Miami in the middle of the European season, and then we also have Canada in the middle of the European season as well. Kind of locked in fixtures. I think they have to be for those street races because the street circuits, because of stuff going on, I guess, shutting down the cities.
Dan, right? Yeah.
There's
Same with Monaco.
the design tracks coming to Madrid and South Africa somewhere. I think that's what it's designed for. So
I've
hopefully
heard the same.
there's too many America tracks now. One of Miami or Vegas has to go. They're not super entertaining races. But like the schedule in itself, like Suzuka was super boring. You can get races at Monaco. Like I think it needs looking at.
Yeah, some of the test tracks too, like Barcelona, so the Catalunya, they just know it like the back of their hands, and everyone races it the same way, all the same lines, because it's a test track. So the only difference is the pits.
Yeah, too much data on it, too much historical.
Yeah, exactly.
Season is so long.
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, right until is it into December or November this year?
December the 5th.
That's too long.
That seems completely mad to me. But
Think
yeah.
about the travelling
That's
circuit
too
as
much.
well. Like you take all the engineers, you take the cars, you take the bits, you take the pits. Everything goes with them.
I mean, it feels like it's a fairly similar length to the NBA season that just is happening all year long. 82 games in the space of 35 weeks is actually kind of getting through 83 games is getting through it at quite a lick.
Talking about
But now the NBA regular season is finished.
exciting, man, exciting. Honestly, as a Denver Nugget fan, so much has happened this season.
What?
Listen,
Hold
all
on.
right?
Hold on.
I
This is
support the
news.
Lakers.
This is news to the whole community.
Do you know what?
You don't support the Lakers, so
I
you
do.
own all Lakers shirts. You talk about the Lakers with such a passion and haven't spoken about the Denver Nuggets all year until Jokic.
I'm a massive Westbrook fan, but I also love LeBron James. I miss Westbrook from the OKC days, of course, but you know that's a while ago now.
Yeah,
So
he's not who he was.
he's not who he was, as we know. But I've really enjoyed watching him play with Jokic this year. I think that
As a Denver, you can't start with that as a Denver Nuggets.
I know I tried to throw that one in there, but if I'm being honest, still rooting for the Lakers. You know, because LeBron James, Luka Doncic, two players who excite me. They have an understanding of the game, the way they play the game the right way, they approach the game. There's so many reasons as to why I love Westbrook, really. But I thought that this year, the matchups for playoffs in particular, is really exciting. The last game,
Well, play-ins, yeah, go play-ins first.
yeah, obviously we've got the play-ins first, but I think some of the playoffs already set. Denver have Clippers, Celtics. Actually, we don't know who Celtics are facing, but Bulls have the Heat. Also, we've got I think Lakers facing off with Timberwolves. So a lot of exciting bits with the playoffs coming through. But I
Yeah,
think
not easy. The Western Conference is interestingly, although they stand less chance overall, the Western Conference is very tight. I think anyone can beat anyone in the Western Conference, whereas I think anyone in the Eastern Conference will beat the Western Conference.
interesting you say they don't stand a chance. You know, overall, given your Celtics bias, but you know, we'll say.
Yeah, I am biased. There's OKC in the West,
Yeah,
and that's
do you know what? I don't even think OKC even the best team in the West. I think they've got an exciting team, but experience will always come into play when it comes to the playoffs. We're talking about a team who haven't really, not a lot of players in there have actually played in the playoffs. So it'll be quite challenging for them to see how they adjust, as well as just how they take the moment, even if they do get past the first round. Like, as they get deeper into it, when they start to play with less players, you know, you're going with 7-player rotation, 6-player rotation at times, you know, it does get challenging because now teams have time to plan, you know, plan for your schemes, plan for how your players are going to play. So
yeah.
it's interesting, but I think, you know, OKC aren't, you know, while they've dominated the regular season, I don't think they're the team to watch this year.
Yeah, I'd agree because the NBA Cup spoke volumes. I think when they were actually tested and came under pressure in a
Yeah.
championship game,
Mhm.
Shea went missing,
Yeah.
and he does go missing in the big games. He can score 50, 60 points against the minnows,
Yeah.
but when it comes down to playing the big dogs like he's going to have to in the next couple of weeks, this is his first real test.
They're gonna
Canadian,
get really
Canadian Shea.
they're gonna have to get really creative, and also be interesting to see who they play in the first round because the West is stacked. And to your point, I do
You
agree.
say stacked, it's competitive. I don't think it's stacked.
Every team has a chance. Like realistically, every team's got a chance. Clippers have Harden and Kawhi, who's playing unbelievable the last couple games. Lakers, of course, you've got LeBron James and Jokic and Luka Doncic, so you've always got a chance. With Denver, with Jokic, you've always got a chance. OKC, of course, Shy, you know, like as we rightly said, always got a chance there. Who else? With Minnesota, you've got Anthony Edwards, special player. You know, made
Yeah.
I think was it 8 threes last night.
Yeah, which is where I'd be worried for the Lakers because he can play 7 games like that. He's playing within his box to do that.
Yeah, that's probably the one series I'm most excited for, the Lakers Timberwolves, because just Anthony Edwards, you just never know what he's going to do. I mean, he dominated KD in their matchup. You know, when they faced the Suns last year. So I feel like
Yeah.
this year he probably do the same. He's almost like the giant slayer. You know, he goes out there, puts in, you know, gives you 40, 50, and his celebrations afterwards as well, man. He's just got it. To me, he's the face of the league right now. I know there's talk about Ja coming back, especially with his celebration, where he's where actually I can't say too tough about his celebration on here, but you know where he's throwing the grenade and and almost going for cover. He's clarified that actually recently. But yeah, I feel like with a lot and of course can't count out the Warriors, man. Steph Curry. Now you've added Jimmy Butler to the mix. My goodness,
the problem with Golden State Warriors is they're in the play-in tournament.
the
So
last
they got to play the Grizzlies. That's
yeah, Ja Morant.
Is it a one-off? Is it a one-off game?
So they face the six.
play-in's one off.
Yeah,
so
one
you've
off.
got
But you got
ninth versus 10th, loser goes out. 7th versus 8th, loser plays the winner of 8th versus 9th. 7th seed then plays the 2nd seed, and the 8th seed, who lost their first game and won the second, they then will play the first seed.
So you could have Warriors.
So you get a second chance. If you qualified seeding for 8th, you get a second chance if you lose that first playing game. You with me?
Not really.
Yeah.
I'm literally looking at the website whilst you're talking to me as well.
Yeah, but last night Warriors Clippers, like best game of the season so far, with both teams going at it. You had the stars come out and show out. Jimmy Butler, well, he was on fire. Steph Curry, made loads of threes as well. I think he made about 6 threes. You've also got Draymond Green. I know he missed the layup to tie in overtime, but he was also playing really well with 4 threes. But of course, on the other side, James Harden.
Hold on, just quickly. On Warriors versus Clippers, they were going into it basically playing to be in the playoffs or the play-ins. So had the Warriors had won, they'd have been seeded 5th or 6th, and the Clippers would have dropped down and gone to the play-in tournament or 6th at worst, and it would have affected the Timberwolves. So there's a lot of permutation for the last game of the regular season that's 83 games long.
Yeah.
Incredible that it can still come down to the last game for seedings, and it did create a lot of jeopardy. And that's why Femi said it was one of the best games, one of the best games of the season, because it had the most riding on it so far.
Yeah.
Now the games just get progressively better, and there's more riding on each one.
I think, do you know what? I wouldn't be offended if not offended, but I wouldn't. I would really be excited if the Premier League adopted a similar system.
Never gonna happen.
And the reason I say that, this season, for example, the last 5 games are basically a write-off. No one cares. Relegation, that's all done now. You know who's going to win the league. Even the battle for top 4 is no longer the battle for top 4, is now battle for top 5. And you pretty much know who's going to make in the Champions League. So the rest, I'll let our audience decide that one.
He makes a good point though. The league is essentially done.
There's so many interesting
It's
games.
essentially done, man. And I feel like if we had a playoff sort of system, and I know MLS do as well. I know everyone's quick to criticize and say, "Oh, we're trying to Americanize, the beautiful game." But I think there is some element of excitement when you have a playoff style system because regardless of how the season goes, you still have a chance to win the league.
Yes, you say that, however, and rugby has switched to it. So rugby used to be whoever won the league won the Premiership, and now they have playoffs. So top 4 has a semi and then a final.
Mm.
And then your seeding counts for if you finished first, then you've obviously got home and you play the 4th, so similarly.
Yeah.
But the reason why the NBA's done it, the reason why the NBA's done the NBA Cup is because their ratings have fallen off a cliff. They've lost 30% of viewers this year, and it was down last year. They're down year on year, and it's not just versus NFL, it's other streaming services. People are watching other things. They've, like you said, Femi, he's the player, Anthony Edwards is
Face of the league.
Face of the league right now. I mean,
so it's kind of hard to even know a lot of.
They're looking for a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant. LeBron James is too boring. He's got all the stats, but he can't. Well, he is boring.
I think
he's Mr. Perfect. He's not aggressive. He's not got phenomenal dribbling, and his 3-point stats are okay. When Steph burst onto the scene 2016, 2017, and they dominated, and Steph was doing the 3-pointers, and that transformed the league. Yep. Since then, it's kind of been a little bit back and forth. Jokic has come in, Doncic has come in, and you've got these European players. Giannis has now come in. SGA from Canada. There's a lot of international players. They're searching for all-American faces of the league.
To be fair, I think it's easy to say a player's boring when you've been the face of the league for 22 years.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
I do agree. People are probably tired of it, and they need, a new young face, someone who they can rely on. I thought Jao was going to be that player. Obviously, the controversies with, the gun violence and all the sort of things, outside of we're talking a bit more about what he does off the court than on the court, which isn't the best. But I still think with Anthony Edwards, you give him the right tools, a little bit more PR as well. I think he could potentially be, the face of a league that, they're really craving for, because they haven't really got that star player, because, European players, for being honest, they just don't put bums on seats.
No.
Like the American players, it'll be interesting to see.
They get the stats, they make the plays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Lamelo Ball, for example. Shame that he's been injured for
Yeah.
the last few games and will be for the rest of the season, because he's someone that gets bums on seats. But
Yeah.
street basketball.
Yeah, he's excited to watch. Really, really excited to watch for me.
So picks then for the playoffs. I'm obviously never going to go anywhere but the Celtics. But who's got you excited?
The most exciting matchup for me has got to be Timberwolves, Lakers. Probably throw in Denver and Clippers in there as well. The East doesn't excite me, if I'm being honest, because, as you rightly said, I just feel like Celtics have got that wrapped up. It's similar to when LeBron was in the East or the Cavs. You knew whoever was coming out the West was always going to face, LeBron and the Cavs. So I'm not, too excited by what happens in the East, because I just feel like the Celtics is just way better than the rest of them. And in terms of star players as well, like, no team actually excites me with their play in the East, other than Cavs, if I was to push and maybe, throw in Donovan Mitchell and his supporting cast in there. But other than that, like, they're not really a great bunch to watch. But the West, you just got so many matchups to look forward to.
Cat at the Knicks, Giannis at the Bucks.
Yeah, but Damian Lillard's, he's out for the rest of the season with the, I can't remember what it was, but I know he's out for the rest of the season with an injury. Without Dame, you're relying on Giannis to be Superman, against the rest of the East, which is really, is really difficult as well. So I don't know. It's not.
Hey, well, I feel like we're a little bit down on it, so let's hope for some absolutely epic series to kickstart the NBA again. Need some big time plays from some big names, some emerging young talent as well. I can see the Celtics repeating. We've said it before. We think they might three-peat and create that dynasty, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it first, and it's not easy.
Honestly, they got to go back to back first before those sort of conversations start. But yeah, they have the right team for it. They have the right team. They have the right coach as well. He's a madman. Yeah. Honestly, he's insane. He reminds me so much of Pep. Like, they're so similar in just the preparation for the game, just his motivation, and just he says weird things in the press conference as well. They're literally the same people, just the basketball equivalent, honestly.
I think when you get asked the same questions, or you get asked like meaningless questions, they just must get so like sick of it.
Yeah.
You just fire it.
They have to answer the same question over and over again as well. You must get sick of yourself.
83 games in a season, and it's asking me about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like who's your number one, who's MVP in the team this year? Like, which one are you trading? Who are you keeping? Are you going to have to trade them? Like, you ask me that 83 times a year.
Honestly, yeah, I agree. But let's see how this wraps up then.
I mean, saying that, I think Jaylen Brown goes at the end of the season.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take. Is his contract due? I'm pretty sure he signed an extension.
It's just expensive. It's very expensive having an all-star back-to-back team.
Yeah.
When then you start losing other younger talent that's going to push through over the next couple of years. Pritchard.
Yeah, but these are two players the Celtics actually drafted, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, so I doubt they'll just give them away so cheaply, if I'm being honest. But I think if you go back-to-back, there'll be no reason to get rid of them. More money for the franchise, more bums and seats, and they recently sold the Celtics as well. So the new owners, I'm sure, not looking to get fans on the wrong side of that. So I'll probably say he definitely stays unless they lose the final or something.
Yeah, it's been pretty clearly Tatum's team all year. Although we didn't manage to feature in the Olympic side.
Yeah, oh,
He
man.
just went for a holiday. He just went for a holiday to Paris last year. Yeah.
It's crazy
All
though.
right,
Players so
go
small
on.
will just have unlimited time at the Olympics. It says more about the talent the US have got, if anything.
But yeah, I think it was more about the other bigger names that were there, to be honest. Anyway, right, let's finish off with football. We spoke about the league and the format. I don't think football is struggling with viewership or with stadium sellouts, and that they're the reasons why I don't think that football has to change the format.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still just about enough fan power that it wouldn't happen, but football goes where the money is. They did in 1992 and they will again. You already see it with FIFA and UEFA. They'll do what they need to. Look at this Club World Cup in the summer. They'll do what they need to do to earn the money that they want to earn. But I wouldn't say there's anything on the horizon right now in terms of big shifts in how the Premier League works, for sure.
Too many games already. They can't be adding in post-season games. Yeah, you're already seeing the revolt against things like the FA Cup replays. And I think the appearance of the Club World Cup and these post-season friendlies popping up is a step in the wrong direction. But I think it would take, a terrible decision to lead us into a position of playoffs and regular season games. Just can't see it happening in football.
Yeah, I think the difference with football compared to other sports is they don't actually wait till the ratings drop or viewership goes down. They're quite it's what I'm looking for. Rather than reactive, they're quite proactive with it. Their approaches. If they see more opportunity to generate more revenue for the sport, then why not go for it? I know there's going to be a lot of pushback on the playoffs in the Premier League, but I think if we have a similar season this year as we do the following seasons, I think it's definitely a conversation to consider because there's really nothing to look forward to for the last couple of games of the season.
But the beauty of it is that we almost definitely won't.
Yeah. The English football pyramid doesn't really allow for it because it all feeds down. Every league's the same. There's promotion, there's relegation, there's champions, people that finish bottom. I just don't think it would. Unless you were to isolate the Premier League in a similar way to the European Super League that got shut down, it's just impossible because how would you run that through to, I'm not just talking like Championship League 1, League 2, I'm talking like Northern Premier League, the regional football that follows the same structure.
Is it still called the Rymans?
Ismail, something like that. I think it obviously depends on what region you are, but yeah, it goes into. But I mentioned I don't think it's sort of a not broke. If it's not broke, don't fix it kind of mentality.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of appetite for change in the actual league structure.
No.
Oh, Joel, you said you still think there's a lot of games still to go with a lot on them. I probably agree. We've still got 15% of the season still to go.
Well, I mean, most of them involve the teams in third
to seventh,
yeah, and
Yeah.
few of them are playing each other. I think Forest play Chelsea on the last day, but I've got a funny feeling they could both be out of it by then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Forest currently hold the keys
They're
in
looking
third position, but yeah, you said they're looking vulnerable.
They're looking vulnerable at the moment. I just think, even though, like, when you look at their form, it's not terrible. I think that game on Saturday against Everton at home, where all of a sudden you're in the business end of the season and you're playing against a team who you probably expect to beat at home, and they're there to stop you from winning. It's a completely different context to how Forest have been playing their games all season. They've been looking to not have the ball, catch teams on the break, and it's why teams don't play this way, like not consistently. I've almost been like a bit surprised of how long they've been able to keep it up. And actually, this is going to show the recency bias that I've got here, but if you'd have talked to me about this last week, I would have said how good Forest were and how they surprised me in the second half at Villa Park by really taking the game to Villa. But then I think that context on Saturday is probably more indicative of what's going to happen to them over the next few weeks.
Yeah,
especially at home. And winning against United 1-0 wasn't convincing given United's season.
They won against loads of teams, but of course you have to mention United.
No, we're speaking recency because that's the last game that they won, Femi. So we're going to talk about that. The last game that they won was against United, and it was a scrappy 1-0 win against a team that have got nothing to play for the rest of the season. In fact, they've got more incentives to do badly.
Yeah, I think the concern with Forest is the goals have dried up a little bit. Chris Wood was so hot 2/3 of the season, and he was a focal point. And if the goals dry up from him, you've seen like Gibbs White, Alanga, they're popping up with goals, but the volume they're scoring has definitely dropped off. And the teams they have to play, they've got to play Spurs, which obviously as soon as United, you wouldn't be surprised if they beat them, but still got to play City, still have to play Chelsea. These are games that aren't going to be, they've got to play Palace away, who are the second most informed team in the league. Like you could see them drop out, which would be a shame because, over the course of 38 games, I feel like they've been great, but they have lacked a plan B at times.
They've still got the FA Cup, haven't they?
That's probably more of a distraction than anything else.
Yeah, I feel that's anything.
Yeah, they're not one of the things.
Was it semi-finals?
They're in the semis. They've got City in the second semi-final on the Sunday. But I think their squad is like slightly stretched. Like Alanga's struggling a little bit physically, I think, and they don't really have a lot. They don't have loads off the bench. They don't have a really deep squad. So when it's not going their way and they're looking to change a game in their favour, I think they struggle a little bit.
Yeah, but they've recruited really well. So if they are to even get Europa League and they have the money to spend, you would fully expect them to not grow on next year because this is a really good finish, but they'll be there and thereabouts for like European conversation again.
Yeah, I think almost they've had too good a season. It's like changed the way that you'll probably judge them if they do drop out the top five. Which we're not. I'm looking at their fixtures now, and they've still got Brentford to come at home, still got Leicester to come at home, Chelsea to come at home. They're teams who aren't going to be playing for very much, but they're also going to be just consolidating. I don't really think they're going to be giving Forest the space that they want. But anyway. Yeah. If they do end up dropping out of it, it will probably be viewed as a bit of a failure. But actually, if you'd have offered Forest a top 7 finish at the beginning of this season, they'd have absolutely snapped your hand off.
Yeah, agreed.
I think whilst I do agree they probably wouldn't get as much points heading towards the tail end of the season, I think the teams around them are just not as good. I think they're all at similar levels. City, probably win 2 games and then lose the next 2 or 3. Chelsea probably take 4 draws, from now to the end of the season. And Villa, they've still got Champions League. Who knows how that would impact them, getting smacked by PSG in the second leg. You know what I mean? So I would have been worried if the teams around them, would have, chased and, got racked up more points heading towards the end of the season. But whilst I know Nottingham might drop off slightly, I'm just not convinced about the teams around them.
I mean, Villa are on 4 wins in a row. Newcastle are on 4 wins in a row. And I think City have got lucky.
5, though.
Say that again, mate.
I mean, from the teams outside of the top 5. It's just Chelsea and Villa.
Yeah. So Villa are on 4 in a row. They've won 4 in a row. I think Chelsea will drop off as well. But So, yeah, I think Villa are the ones chasing, really. Chelsea don't really look like they're in the headspace to keep picking up lots of points, do they? Yeah, obviously it's in Forest's hands. But I think the fact that they've been playing a certain way up until this point in the season, and now how they have to play in these last 7 games, they've got 7 left.
Yeah.
I think, they're the ones who weirdly look vulnerable considering they're third. I think City looks strong, and I think they're benefiting from Haaland getting injured, actually.
Moosh is stepping up a little bit, isn't he? And
just gives him a bit more fluidity.
Yeah, that's the word I was going for. Yeah. I agree with that completely. But you can still, I could see City rolling off 3 or 4 wins to finish the season and wouldn't be remarkable, right?
City are just going to win most of their games, win the FA Cup, and everything will be fine, and they'll finish third.
And then De Bruyne joins United next season.
He said he was looking for a project, mate.
He said he was looking for an exciting project.
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of the interview he gave, doesn't suggest that he's definitely leaving England.
I think that's just pedantics, man. Honestly, I think, if the Saudi come in with 800k, he's packing his bags and he's making his way out.
I think he's going to have a chip on his shoulder because he's been pushed rather than he's decided to leave. I think he would have stayed if they'd have played him.
I think he's also done everything in the Prem, and I think I would have no competitive goals left in the Premier League. He doesn't have anything to prove in the Prem. I know he's been pushed out, but he knows, like his goodbye letter, he knows he has nothing to prove. He said, "We've achieved it. We've achieved it all together."
It's not about proving it. He'll still want to play for Belgium. We still have a World Cup play. He can't go to Saudi now. I think it's too soon.
He'll still play for Belgium when he goes to Saudi.
Yeah.
He also said that family is a big factor.
Yeah, and he wants to move a young family to Saudi Arabia
for $1 million a week.
He already earns full 500 grand a week. I don't think that much extra is going to do that much for him.
Yeah, but he's going to need to trust his body as well. Like, he's had a number of injuries, even last season as well. So if he believes he's going to stay fit, for next couple of seasons. Of course, you roll the dice, but
He may not even need to move his family.
But it's not rolling the dice because
Just
Saudi will still be there.
pop out for a game. He doesn't need to train.
It's 9 hours. It's not popping out. 9-hour flight. Like, he can't base himself in London, flying across to Saudi Arabia. Maybe Dubai, yeah, and do it from there. But you're still moving a young family to Dubai. I just think that people just think the Saudi thing's it's an easy thing to take. It'll be there in a year's time if he wants to do it, and his body breaks down. But I think he still has
I think his body has broken down.
He's been playing with a
He
hernia.
looked broken on Saturday.
He looked great on Saturday.
yeah,
He's actually finally fit.
There are rare games where he just reminds people, who he is. But I think for a whole season to do that for a whole season and depend on him as well, I just don't see it.
He played
Yeah,
8
Yeah,
weeks.
I guess he's never been a speed in a box-to-box player.
Yeah,
I'm going to lose that, though. He's still on the edge in his head. Honestly, as a Liverpool, if he turned up at Liverpool next year, I'd be buzzing. He's still
As
that.
a Liverpool fan, says the Chesterfield fan, you and Femi, goodness me, glory supporters.
Yeah.
Glory supporters all the way. Did you know, Joel? We've known James for 3 years now. Did you know he supported Liverpool this passionately until this year?
I did, but not until we started doing this.
Yeah.
It's outrageous.
When's the last time you were at Anfield?
3 years. But this is you missed my point about me saying that if he turned up a Premier League winning team, I'd be
Top club, you would be.
Yeah, that's how good I still think he
and
is.
you're not relying on him to play, 30, 40 games a season.
Probably better for him.
That's a big factor at the top of the game now. Players aren't expected to do 60 games. The
No.
squads are big enough that they can be rotated in and out. That's kind of helped him. Like I've been saying quite a lot this season, I feel like that I'm surprised how little they're using him and not using him in important moments and whatever. But actually, is that what's allowed him to be playing now, pain free in the running? And yeah, they're not where they want to be in terms of Champions League and Premier League, but it looks like he's ready to play now. And it's like, if you're in an environment which top clubs can provide, where you can play yourself into physical fitness, I think, yeah.
What club is it? Like, what club in the Prem would it be? Back to Chelsea?
Any club.
City, you've got like 3
Not Chelsea.
No,
not Chelsea or United. Yeah, he won't go to United or Chelsea.
He wouldn't go to United. But City, you've got like 3 teams, so he has the luxury to, take, games off. But if you're playing for like Liverpool, where you've achieved nothing for them, like
No, he doesn't have that luxury because they've lost the league. They're 5th in the Prem. They don't have that luxury. They've struggled with their squad. I know it's been a Rodri issue.
yeah, but
They don't have that luxury and they didn't trust him. They've not trusted him.
Yeah, but I'm saying when you've achieved as much as he has for City, no one's looking at Kevin De Bruyne and saying, "Oh, why weren't you fit?" I mean, they won the treble like 2 seasons ago, so like, well, you're going to a club like Liverpool where you're basically starting from ground zero. You've achieved nothing. Whatever you've done as City is completely relevant to Liverpool fans. You have to be on top of your game, and if you're not playing games and you're just showing up injured, like the pressure's going to ramp up, and he's going to start putting stress on his body just so he can play those games. And we've seen it happen in the past with top players. It just doesn't work out.
Just think that the professional player's body is better than ever. Like in terms of age, like you've seen Salah just sign a 2-year deal at 33, 34. Van Dijk's about to sign a new deal. They're looking after themselves so well that there's this historical thing about old players getting injured. Like he's only 33, De Bruyne. How old is he?
33, yeah.
33.
Yeah, 33.
And 34 in the summer.
And he's had 2 dodgy seasons of injuries in and out, but he now says he's fit. Like he's playing pain free. Like he should be treated as the same as Van Dijk, same as Salah. And if those 2 are signing top level contracts with a Premier League winning team, there's no reason De Bruyne can't either.
2 years as well.
Yes, yeah. There's no reason that they can't. But yeah, the where is the big question. Like he could go anywhere in Europe, really. He could probably go to some clubs in the Prem.
Well, the most likely
Into Miami, probably.
any MLS team, 8 to 11.
It's too early. He could play for 3 more years and then go to the MLS.
Bayern Munich, PSG, AC Milan, Inter Milan, as well as into Miami.
Weirdly,
No Premier League teams are anywhere near likelihood in terms of bookmakers odds.
yeah, PSG would be a weird one, but
Yeah, that's not where PSG are going, is it?
no, they're going
I
the
don't think so.
direction. But yeah, the other ones definitely make sense. Like Bayern Munich,
I could see Bayern, yeah. I really could see Bayern.
they're about to drop.
That league would suit him down to the ground. Yeah, Femi, he could do his squad rotation over there for sure.
Yeah, he could
Him and Harry Kane would be quite a deadly combination, wouldn't it?
Don't. Hello.
Hey,
Okay, all right.
Wasn't that breaking news on this podcast a few weeks ago from Matt that he was going to Arsenal?
Harry Kane's coming back.
Yeah.
I didn't say Harry Kane was going to Arsenal, but I think likely that he does come back this year or next year.
There's talk of a 2-year clause or something.
Telling you right now, Harry Kane is not leaving
Really?
the Bundesliga.
Well, we'll see. Time will tell. Maybe there is something to be excited about for the last 5 games in the Premier League.
Well, I think that we've spoken about transfers for the last 10 minutes probably shows that there isn't that much to be excited about.
There we go.
Well, I was like completely like it's dead, and then I looked at the fixtures. I was like, actually, there's a few decent games that I want to watch. It's not completely done. Still got the Premier League titles winners Arsenal going to Liverpool as well, so that'll be good.
I mean, they give him the.
That's a dead rubber. That's not a thing.
Give him the
Arsenal have got second sewn up, though, I do think. Although
Growing games so that Arsenal have to give them a clout. Like they're going to play whoever they got next week with Alisson up front.
Where's the Champions League? Is it Tuesday?
tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow and Wednesday.
And we didn't even do predictions for that.
Joel will be at Villa Park this time as well.
I will be. Yeah.
Did you hear that on the pod, Joel, last
No,
week?
I didn't listen last week.
Brilliant. I said Joel's got a pass because he's at Villa Park, and James said unless he's watching it on a fan screen because he's not at PSG, so
did
he's
do those.
definitely at home on his sofa.
Yeah,
So,
I did do those. I was in the pub, but they did do a fan screening in the whole suite.
yeah, I bet that was an enjoyable time.
Well, I mean, when we scored, it was bloody brilliant.
Was it how long? 3 minutes, was it?
Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah, but it was the perfect. That is how you want to score in that game because it was like the way it rolled across the. As soon as it gets past Hakimi at the front post, you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, Rodgers is going to score. And so
Yeah.
like,
Oh, it's like a solution.
yeah, so it was just perfect. Like, there was no question of offside, anything. You
Yeah.
could just celebrate. It just felt really, really good. But then, yeah, PSG just went on a mad one. They are crazy.
If
Quick
they get under
prediction.
2-1, I would have said you have a chance to actually come back.
I know. Is that third goal?
Right, 4 games predictions.
Yeah, I think PSG go through. I think Barca are through, aren't they? They're 4-0 up.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, I think Arsenal are going to go through, but
that's the one.
There, it's
I can't be too sure.
no. If you said Real Madrid win 4-0 at home against Arsenal, no one would bat an eyelid.
No, it's a completely normal thing to happen.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a done deal. I just really enjoyed it for what it was last week, and I think that's what you have to do. A game in a moment like that. I said last week, just not winning the Champions League. They're not going to follow this up with a win against PSG and then a win against Barcelona in the final. That's not Arsenal's season.
Feels
So
like,
you just got to,
doesn't it?
you just got to enjoy it for what it was, and it was a phenomenal night as an Arsenal fan.
Arsenal aren't conceding 3 goals. It's just, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Like, honestly,
just doesn't
they
happen.
play anti-football.
Okay, all right.
If Real score in the first 10 minutes,
Oh, yeah,
Wow.
they'll be ropey. Yeah.
The
The Arsenal bottom
for that
jobs will
game.
come out.
yeah,
I can't wait for that game.
changes everything.
Man, you're seeing loads of Madrid players saying Wednesday, can't looking forward to Wednesday. We need Hala Madrid. Wednesday this, Wednesday that.
Is Arteta sacked if they lose 4-0 at the Bernabeu?
No.
Quite a monumental mess. So come second, win no trophy, and then throw a 3-0 lead.
It can happen against Real.
Yeah.
That'll be a great watch.
Yeah. I think if that's happening, if it's Arsenal versus Brest and that's happening, then there's questions asked. But going away to the Bernabeu and losing 4-0 to Real Madrid, I think is fairly acceptable for where Arsenal are at the moment, especially without a striker.
Interesting.
Still pushing on with this Marino up front
I've just
project.
popped him in my fantasy team for this week. He's going to score again.
He's got a double game week, and one of them is against Ipswich, so I don't think that's a terrible shout.
No, big
Anyway.
bench boost from the champions of LA.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll wrap it there for tonight. Thanks for listening along. You can like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Get in touch at allsportspods@gmail.com, and we will catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.